Hey YouTube, Pete the Norfolk Chili Head. Today I thought I'd bring you a little tour of my home recording studio. This is of course where I'm going to be bringing you all my jam videos and all my music productions that I'm going to be doing over the next few months and moving forward into 2015. I like to think that this is really quite sort of roughly divided into two sort of equal halves really. This is obviously the synth side that I'm showing you, where all of the sounds are really generated, and over here we have more of the control side where I've got my mixer, my MIDI controllers and all that kind of stuff. As you can see, my space is extremely limited, and so you know, I'm going to have to sort of look into more solutions to create more space, you know, with laptop stands and all that kind of stuff, and maybe working more with computer stuff, maybe, you know, using DAWs and VSTs, all that kind of thing, plugins, etc. So that's one of the things that you might notice straight off, is that there's no computer here. I do use a MacBook which is hooked up to Ableton Live, and over there you can see my PreSonus Studio Mobile audio interface, which I use to connect up my computer to all my gear. But I just find using a DAW and using a mouse and clicking on the screen all the time, I find it quite restrictive, and I much prefer to have all of these little gadgets and gizmos and boxes with knobs and buttons on them. I just feel like it's more fun to play with my music that way and to create that way. As I say, space is very limited, and so I will have to look into using DAWs and plugins more in the future, but for now I am getting as many budget synths and as much small equipment as I can, and like I say, I will be investing in some laptop stands to help create more space here. But let's start over here with the control side of things. First off, I've got my monitors here. These are the Alesis Elevate 5s. Certainly not the best monitors in the world that you'll ever find, but for someone who's working on pretty much an extreme budget like I am, and who's working in a very small room and really just creating music on a very amateur kind of level, I find that these are perfectly fine. They have a really nice sound to them, and they're just, you know, completely suitable for what I need. So that's why I went for those. They're a nice price. They're only about 100 quid for the pair, which is very affordable. And like I say, they sound pretty good, so they're completely suitable for what I use. Over here, excuse me if the camera does go a little bit out of focus, but this is my Akai APC20. This is what I do use to control Ableton when I do use it. Obviously this is what you use to launch your clips and your scenes and all of that kind of stuff, but it's a really nice bit of kit. As with a lot of my stuff, it's very affordable, and it really allows you to do quite a lot of stuff within Ableton, so that's really good. We've already touched on the audio interface, and this is my mixer, of course. This is the Behringer Xenix 120. This has a lot of inputs, which is great for someone who's looking to collect a lot of different synths and sound modules. If you need a mixer where you can plug a lot of stuff in, then this is a really good one to go for. Again, it's very affordable, and it's got lots of control in it as well. So it's really a decent mixer, I think. And then down here, of course, we have my Axiom 25 MIDI keyboard, which I sometimes use to control some of my synths, but of course also playing plugins within Ableton and on my computer. It's a lovely keyboard, semi-weighted keys, touchpads up there and rotary encoders, nice display screen as well. So it's a really good MIDI keyboard for a budget setup like mine. And then just before we move over to the synth side of stuff, up here I've got my tiny little Korg Monotrons. I've got the delay there and the duo. Very much kind of toy-like synths. They only cost about 30 quid each. But you can actually do some interesting stuff with them. You can connect them to other gear, especially the delay, and you can really get some quite interesting sounds out of them, so they're worth playing around with. They're also very good for learning the very basics of synthesis You know, you've got your cut-offs, you've got your delays, you've got you know, all of your filters on there, and it's a really good way of learning pretty much the basics of how a lot of analog synthesis works. So, you know, just because they're cheap and rather toy-like doesn't mean they're not worth giving a go, especially if you are new to this kind of thing. They do help with, you know, getting to grips with the basics of creating this kind of music, electronic music. And over there in the back, you can see my recorder, which is a Zoom H1. Works perfectly when you connect it up to your mixer through the line input. It sounds great, in my opinion. And once again, it's another budget item which does a perfectly good job for what I want it to do. So there you go, that's pretty much the control side of things. And then moving on to the synthesis. Most of you will see here that I have a lot of Korg gear. Korg makes some fantastic products, and three of the best of them are these Korg Volca machines. You've got the beats, the bass and the keys there. I'm looking forward to getting this sample whenever it comes available in the UK. I know some people around the world in places like Japan have already started to receive their Volcas, their Volca samples. So I'm looking forward to getting that when it does come out. But these, once again, not only are they great budget little synths, but they are a really good way of learning the basics of synthesis. Once again, you know, you've got all of your cut-offs, your filters, LFOs, that kind of thing. It's a good way to learn how step sequences work, that kind of stuff. Really good way of starting out, and it won't break the bank either. Up there I've got the Korg Monotribe as well. It's quite a sort of a, I would say, a fairly basic machine, but you can still do a lot with it. You know, again, you can use the sequencer, you can create some really interesting, more kind of experimental sounds with that, I would say. And yeah, once again, another budget item which is really worth checking out, especially if you are new to creating this kind of music. Over here we have the Kaoss Pro, which I love. It looks fantastic and it's built like a tank, which is, you know, really, really good. You can make really, really varied sounds with this, everything from beats to bass to acoustic sounds, leads, chords, effects, pretty much anything. And it's a really good way of creating varied sounds. I love that machine. Down here we have the Akai Rhythm Wolf, which is a fairly new machine. It does some great beats and bass sounds. It's a really filthy, dirty kind of sounding machine. It's got lots of distortion effects in it, and it's got the sequencer down at the bottom as well, which is really good. And also you can do things like fills and chopping between patterns quite quickly and easily. So it's all it's got quite a lot of stuff that you can do with it in terms of patterns and rhythms. The sounds are fairly basic and not particularly varied, but I like the sound of it, and you can incorporate it into a wider setup and do some good stuff with it. And I can see the camera's going out of focus there, so apologies for that. Over here we have an effects pedal. This is the Tri Reverb, the Baby Boom Tri Reverb, which just, as it says, it creates some reverb, so it's good for hooking up to other machines, like the keys or the bass even, or even one of your beat machines, your drum machines. So it's a nice little effects pedal. And then of course we've got the Mini Kaoss Pad Pro there, Mini Kaoss Pad 2 rather. And again, another budget machine which has a lot of nice effects on it. Some of the leveling can be a bit off. Before you launch into using it, you really have to turn everything right down, because some of the volumes seem to jump all over the place, and I'm still getting used to that. So some of the effects are more useful than others, but the ones that are useful are very, very good. Lots of filters and flanges and all this kind of stuff, so really worth checking out to add some cheap effects, cheap but decent effects to your setup. And then finally here, of course, this is the OP1 from Teenage Engineering. Certainly the most expensive bit of kit in my setup so far, and I'm really still getting used to it. It's a fantastic bit of kit, really varied and fantastic synthesis. It's got a sampler in there, it's got an FM radio, you can do beats and bass and keys, all kinds of stuff with this machine. It's really fantastic. So I'm looking forward to bringing you some more tunes and sounds with that in the future once I get more used to it. That's really going to be really fun to get into that. But as I say, guys, that's pretty much my setup for now. I am going to be investing in some new stuff next year with, like I say, laptop stands to create more space for things, and I am looking for ways of getting into using more plugins and my DAW and things like that. So we shall see what new stuff I come up with in the new year. But anyway, guys, this has been the tour of my tiny but really quite fun home studio, and I look forward to bringing you more music and more beats and more sounds with it towards the end of this year and throughout 2015. Thanks for watching, guys. I've been Pete the Norfolk Chili Head, and I will be back with you soon once again with another video. Catch you later.